I save the world. I save the world.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Title of my talk today is Hiding in the Spiritual Religious Closet. Okay, being in the closet is a term that is usually applied to the gay community, and the actual definition I found for it was a term used to describe a homosexual person who has not told anybody of his or her sexual orientation. I would probably qualify that, or he hasn't told key people, or he hasn't told those people who you might want to tell in your life, people who you feel close to, or maybe you haven't told your place of employment. You're just not out, as they say. You're not out of the closet. You are not out. Getting out of the closet for a gay person is usually a process. There isn't just like one big thing usually. I remember when I came out as a bisexual person, I told my mother. She took it real well. I told my sister Sarah, who did not take it as well as my mother, but she eventually did. So it's a process. And then, I was pretty public about it. I'm still pretty public about being a bisexual person. So, but coming out of the closet is a continual process. I mean, you need to continually come out, as they say. What I've noticed over the years, though, is that there is another closet. It's the spiritual closet, or maybe the religious closet. Some people are fine about calling themselves spiritual, but they're not so great about calling themselves religious. There's a great graphic for it. I'm going to share the graphic. There it is. This is the graphic that's on the Sunday program, and it's literally somebody in the closet, scared. And, today I want to really just talk about that. How much of that is really what is going on with all of us? And even if it isn't going on, we think coming out of the closet as a spiritual religious person is a continual process. And there is a continual, I think, challenge to be out and open about your spirituality or maybe your religious convictions. Okay, this came up for me this week, when I got a communication from one of our students. And this is a new student taking a class with us. And when this student joined the class, they paid the class with two different credit cards. They paid part of the fee with one card, part of the fee with another card. And then this person emailed me, and I could tell that the person was, upset. And this person said that, it was a woman, that I had immediately, please, would I, refund the money on the one card, because her husband saw it and her husband did not approve. And so she was going to have to tell her husband that it was some kind of mistake, and she got the business to reverse the charge. And that she would find some other way to pay me, but please do it quickly, because her husband was very upset. And so, of course, I did. And, that was what it was. Of course, she was very grateful that I did. But I just thought about that, taking a class, simple class in a spiritual program, and not being able to be open about it, or to tell key people in your life, like your husband, having to hide it. And I wish I could say that this is a rare experience, but I've actually had it many times, even recently, where people have some issue about how they pay for a class because they don't want key people to know. And there's also people who can't take the Zoom class in their home because then other people would find out, so they have to go to a public place like a library or a cafe to take the class. And, there's just all these things of people, sometimes they have alternative emails. They tell me to communicate with them only through the alternative email. They want to make sure I'm not going to send them anything in the mail because people pick up the mail and that would create a problem for them. So I just, think about this. And, Why is this so? Why is it a problem to be spiritual? Why is it a problem to be religious? Is it really a problem to be religious? And I thought about how, the Bible story that you had the Apostle Peter, and you had in the clinch when the Apostle Peter could have declared that he actually was a follower of Jesus, he denied Jesus 3 times because he was afraid. So here was a person really of strong conviction that had been totally submerged in the teaching of Jesus for years then, but yet fear got the best of him, and he chose to be in the closet at that time, like that picture, scared in the closet. And I love the story of the Apostle Peter because it's actually something that is mentioned in A Course in Miracles. Jesus mentions it. It was in the reading that I read a little while ago. It says, Peter swore he would never deny me, but he did so 3 times. So, that's what I'm challenging people to think about for themselves. So maybe you believe you would never deny that you're a spiritual person or maybe a religious person, yet, in the clinch, if you think you're going to be judged for it, or if even worse, like you're going to have some kind of discrimination for it, a lot of us deny it. There's a term that has emerged, it's been around for a couple decades now, and I've talked about it. It's called spiritual but not religious. And it can be abbreviated SBNR. Sometimes on forums, when they ask you what your religion is, they give you an option that you're spiritual but not religious. Now, when I first was exposed to spiritual but not religious, I kind of thought it was a good thing. It meant that people were spiritual. But I have shifted over the years. I actually think it's just part of this war on religion that has been waging for many, many years, decades, really. And, it's just part of trying to make religion bad in some way, shape, or form. Where the society, the ego, reflected in society, is trying to make religion bad. So it's really a war on religion that's going on. So society makes it okay for you to be spiritual, but God forbid it should be organized in any way into some sort of authority structure, because then that authority structure challenges the authority of government. And so government is usually in a little bit of a war with religion. And, we don't have to look very far to see how this operated. Two plus years ago, when we had the shelter in place because of the COVID pandemic, churches were deemed as non-essential businesses. So churches were shut down. And considering that churches probably could have socially distanced and masked the attendees way better than big box stores, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, because people, even by the government standards, could have been pretty safe by the standards anyway in a church. And yet churches weren't essential businesses, but marijuana dispensaries were essential businesses. They were allowed to stay open. Liquor stores were essential businesses. They were still allowed to stay open, but churches, no. Churches were non-essential. And so, that's just one of the things. And as I've mentioned, I've had many discussions with friends in the church business, and with John Mundy in particular, and he just talks about all the churches that have gone out of business during, small churches that have gone out of business during the whole COVID pandemic. And actually, it's a miracle that Community Miracle Center is still here and still going strong and planning to start in-person services again. So, I'm really grateful and blessed. It's really through the grace of God and through guidance that this is happening, because, the whole COVID pandemic was not good for churches. So why is religion, why does religion get such a bad name? People define religion in all kinds of ways, but religion's a very simple thing. And I always like to go to the dictionary definition. So the dictionary definition of religion is the belief in and worship of a supernatural controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. Excuse me. Okay, so that's all religion is. It's it's the study, the worship, the belief in a superhuman, kind of above the human experience of a divinity. And so, I don't really see what's so negative about all of that. Of course, people usually, when they're down on religion, they kind of, they mean they're down on like organized religion, and organized religion gets a real bad rap. And and there have been terrible atrocities by organized religion, and society likes to focus on those atrocities, but society rarely focuses on the many wonderful things that religion and church have done throughout history. How about preserving the written word all through the Dark Ages? I mean, has anybody ever said a thank you to church and to religion for training some of its priests and monks to read and write, and then giving them the function of transcribing texts and rewriting texts so that the written word could be preserved for all those centuries? That's a pretty great thing that churches provided. So I want to say thank you. Thank you, church. Thank you, religion, for preserving the written word through the Dark Ages. That was a really good thing. Community Miracle Center is an organized church. We have all the paperwork and done all the, the legal stuff. We're recognized. We're officially recognized by the state of California and the United States federal government. So, we're a church, and we're in A Course in Miracles church, and I certainly consider A Course in Miracles to be my religion. I don't have any problem about that. When Marianne Williamson was running for president a couple of years ago, everybody in the Course in Miracles community was abuzz about that. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it. But I thought it was pretty interesting, and she certainly did get A Course in Miracles mentioned. But I also was a little disappointed when she was quizzed on some of the TV appearances about A Course in Miracles and her involvement with A Course in Miracles, because I think she was trying to put it back in the closet a little bit. She would always say, or she said several times, well, A Course in Miracles is not a religion. She goes, there's no dogma. It's just talking about universal spiritual truths. So, when I think about universal spiritual truths, I think, like love is real and light is eternal. Those are kind of universal spiritual truths. You don't need, 1,200 pages to talk about universal spiritual truths. It's a very particular spiritual discipline with a very particular teaching. And to say there's no dogma in A Course in Miracles, I'm sure she knows what the word dogma means, but let's look at the dictionary definition of dogma. Dogma, a principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true. A principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true. That's A Course in Miracles. Jesus, Holy Spirit, the voice for God, is giving us some principles here that it tells us are true, absolutely true for everybody, incontrovertibly true. In A Course in Miracles, there's a little section called the Laws of Chaos. And the very first law of chaos, it says, the first chaotic law is that truth is different for everybody. Like all these principles, this one maintains that each is separate and has a different set of thoughts that sets him off from the others. So it's saying that that is not true, and that that's actually what chaos is founded on. So chaos is founded on the idea that there are no incontrovertibly true ideas. So A Course in Miracles definitely has dogma. It's telling us that there are absolute true things, incontrovertibly true. and it teaches those things. So to say A Course in Miracles doesn't have dogma, I think is really misleading. And again, I was happy that Marianne Williamson was bringing attention to A Course in Miracles, but I wasn't particularly happy that in moments when she could have given witness to what A Course in Miracles was, I think she was kind of at the effect of her own internalized spiritual phobia. That's a term I coined a couple of decades ago when I talked about this. That was 20 some years ago. Just this fear of being out of the spiritual, religious closet. Somehow religion's bad. You got to distance yourself a little bit from it. You can't just say that your religion is A Course in Miracles and that, it has a teaching that you adhere to and you follow its principles. You have to kind of like soft pedal it somehow. And I wonder why. The word incontrovertible means not able to be denied or disputed. Course in Miracles has all kinds of principles that are incontrovertible. They're not able to be denied or disputed. So, look at that in your own lives. Where is your internalized spiritual phobia? Obviously it got the Apostle Peter. When I heard Ms. Williamson say that, I knew she was going to lose. I just really knew she was going to lose. And I thought about the Apostle Peter and the 3 times he denied that he knew Jesus. She's been teaching A Course in Miracles for decades, and yet she's publicly denying what it really is. And I thought the Holy Spirit was using her to get the message out there, and she got it out there somewhat. I publicly, thanked her for that. And I think it was also a missed opportunity. I listen to a lot of things. I expose my mind and my consciousness to a lot of things. And I was listening to a political commentator. His name is Dr. Sebastian Gorka. And he said this: if you are not prepared to put your face and your name to those values, you do not represent those values. We have to really be willing to be out of the closet, to just state things, to put our name and our face and our identity in back of things. And if we don't really believe them. We can't really be a spokesperson for them, and we can't really expect them to really be this wonderful positive effect in our lives. If we're not really willing to declare that A Course in Miracles is our spiritual path and it's a teaching that we embrace, and it has certain principles and sometimes are challenging, but I do my best. If we're not really willing to declare things like that publicly in those opportunities when we get to declare them, is it any wonder why we sometimes feel that this discipline isn't working the way that we would hope it would work? Maybe it depends on the different experiences that people had as a child. So I didn't have really a negative experience of church as a child. I had a fairly positive experience of church. My family was Roman Catholic, Italian, good Italian Catholic family, and every Sunday we took a bath Sunday morning, and we put on our best clothes, and we combed our hair, and we got well groomed, and we went to church, and there were all these other well groomed people there. And it was a big song. Everybody put on their Sunday best. Everybody put their best foot forward and showed up in their best presentation. And my mother loved to get dressed up, and she always got dressed up and had special outfits for Sunday. And she always wore some fancy hat. The hat went with the outfit. And my mother used to work at a cosmetic department in a drugstore, so I've always had access to men's cologne because she used to bring me home little testers of men's cologne. So even as an adolescent, I would put on a little cologne, and going to church was kind of a fun thing. It was fun to get dressed up, go to church, and when we used to meet in person, there was a little bit of that, though. People downplayed it, but look at what we got going on here now on Zoom. Get dressed up? Why? It's just a Zoom meeting. We're lucky if people are dressed at all. The dress code for being on Zoom is don't be naked. That's the entirety of the dress code for being on Zoom. People a lot of times aren't paying a whole lot of attention. They're eating, they're distracted, or they just plain got their cameras off. God bless you for being here. But, at least in an in-person gathering, people were trying to look at you and get eye contact and pay attention. I mean, sometimes people fell asleep. I forgave them. But, this is what church has become. And we're getting ready to start in-person gatherings again, which we hope to do as a hybrid of in-person and Zoom at the same time. And I gotta admit, I'm gonna get out of this closet. I'm a little nervous about it because I don't know, we never had large in-person attendance anyway. And now people have really gotten out of the habit. I mean, there's all kinds of statistics about, church participation and church membership way down all throughout our country. So, it's not that great of a time for churches right now. But I'm ready, as Sebastian Gorka said, to put my face and my name there with my values. I think there's tremendous value in getting together in organized spiritual community. I'm going to repeat his quote one more time. If you are not prepared to put your face and your name to those values, you do not represent those values. We need to put our face and our name to the ideas and the values and the reality that A Course in Miracles is. A Course in Miracles is a particular teaching, and if we embrace it, then we need to stand for it, and we need to declare it. There's an old secular expression that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I think that's, really true. We have to stand for our spiritual principles. If we don't stand for them, we get buffeted and swayed by, the world and everything that goes on here. Course in Miracles said, and this was in the reading, it said, there is no choice in this because only you can be the foundation of God's church. People don't want to accept that this is what A Course in Miracles says. And if they read this, they thought it's a metaphor. It doesn't really mean that, that we're going to be members of a church. It's a metaphor. Well, there's nothing in that statement that makes it sound like a metaphor. It sounds like an absolute statement. And how about this statement? This was also in the reading. I must found his church on you because you who accept me as a model are literally my disciples. Disciples are followers. How's that for dogma? We're asked to be Jesus's disciple. We're asked to be Jesus's followers. We're asked to be the foundation for Jesus's church. That means we're going to have to stand for it. And we're going to have to stand up and declare it. And we're going to have to put our face and our name to those declarations. Because if we don't put our face and our name to it, then it's kind of meaningless. And it isn't going to have the effect and the healing that it actually could have. And that all sounds pretty religious to me. These passages from A Course in Miracles that talk about church. And so I don't understand how people would say that A Course in Miracles is not a religion. They're trying to make it into something that it's not. It's a prescribed spiritual program that has a particular belief, and it is teaching us incontrovertible truths. Sounds really religious. I think about my own life. My first major ordination was in 1985. I became Reverend Tony in 1985 through our predecessor organization, the Community Miracles Foundation, and I started using the Reverend title right away. And I got a considerable amount of flack for it, but I was following my guidance. I was putting my name to my spiritual ideas. I wasn't hiding that I was involved in A Course in Miracles church. And within a short period of time, I was able to get, my official name basically changed so that I got Reverend Tony put on my driver's license and put on my IRS documents. It's not really a title. It's now my name. Reverend Tony is my first name. I still have to tell a lot of people that all the time whenever, I'm opening up a new bank account or something. I have to convince them that Reverend Tony is actually my legal name. I have to show them my ID so they believe me. When the pandemic started 2.5 years ago, at the start of the pandemic, and when they announced that we were all going to have to shelter in place, that went against my spiritual principles. And I had to really declare, no, I will not comply to that. I'm just not going to comply to that. That's for me, that's wrong. Other people can comply to it if they want to. I'm not going to comply to it. It was the first time in history that we quarantined or tried to quarantine healthy people. And when I brought that to the Holy Spirit and asked for some guidance about that, the guidance I got was put on a priest collar, put on the collar. And that would help me in many ways, and in ways that I didn't even realize. That would just help me confront this thing in society that I didn't accept. I will not comply. I was going to be a conscientious objector to it on religious grounds. On religious grounds that my spiritual guidance and my direct communication with the Holy Spirit told me not to. And if somebody wanted to argue with Reverend Tony about that, well, okay, go ahead, let's have the argument. Let's have the discussion. Now, wearing the collar now for the past 2.5 years has been really interesting. Because, and what I want to tell people about it is, people like it. People really like me showing up with a collar. People come up and talk to me. People smile. People are nicer. People remember you. People, when you go to restaurants, they tend to remember you more. Of course, maybe they remember me because I'm a really big tipper. But, they remember you. So whatever fear people have about being in the spiritual religious closet, let me tell you, it's vaporous. The more I've come out of the closet, the nicer life is, and the nicer people are to me. I've now gone back east a couple times, and I'm going back east again in a couple of days. I'll see my sister Sarah. I'm going back with Deuce Althea this time, and I, wear my collar to little family reunions and high school reunions. I have gotten no negativity at all about it. Nobody is rejecting me or judging me because I've got a priest collar on. They like it. They literally like it. They come up and talk to me, and they don't talk to me about my religious spiritual beliefs. There's just a sense of warmth and openness and friendliness and love, maybe, that it communicates to people that I encounter. So get out of the closet. Get out of the spiritual religious closet. Stand for your religion. Declare your religion. Don't downplay it. Don't hide. There's no reason to hide. If you stand for it, then you won't have to fall for everything else. Okay, that's my talk today. Thank you very much.
Open my eyes to see. Woke up my head to beat. Woke up my heart to be free. Woke up our world, you and me. I've opened up my heart. I'm at the start. I save the world. I save the world. I save the world. I save